Tom Cruise has fighter jets, and Brad Pitt has Formula One cars. Both movies had Joseph Kosinski behind the camera. But here's the question. Who really owns the modern blockbuster formula? Cruise with Top Gun, Maverick, or Pitt with F1? The moment F1 came onto the big screen, audiences couldn't resist drawing comparisons. It wasn't just another racing movie. It was marketed as the next great IMAX spectacle, a project that promised to do for Formula One what Top Gun Maverick did for aviation. The overlap is impossible to ignore. Same director and the same emphasis on practical stunts, the same story around an aging mentor figure caught between his legacy and the future. For some fans, that's a winning formula, but some think it's a little too familiar. The comparisons became a conversation before the movie was even released. Headlines were calling it Top Gun with wheels. TikTok edits had Pitt and Cruise in side-by-side montages. On Reddit, fans debated whether Joseph Kosinski had found his signature style on simply recycling the same story on a new niche. And by the time Hans Zimmer's score hit theaters, critics were already weighing in on whether it matched, rivaled, or fell short from that of Maverick. So let's break this down, because to understand why F1 is being compared so relentlessly to Top Gun Maverick, we need to look at what both films actually offer. The spectacle, the story, the characters, the music, and most importantly, the cultural moment each one created. Part 1 is speed versus flight. At its core, blockbuster cinema thrives on sensation. Top Gun gave us once-in-a-lifetime aerial sequences with cameras strapped inside cockpits, actors enduring real G-forces, the audience practically feeling the shake of the engines. Cruise's insistence on authenticity turned every flight into an event. F1 approaches spectacle the same way, but with tires instead of wings. Kosinski partnered with Formula One and racing legends like Lewis Hamilton to design a production that could integrate into real races. IMAX cameras were put onto custom-built cars, capturing the blur of speed and the vibration of asphalt, something that digital effects or CGI could never replicate. For racing fans, this was the chance to sit in the cockpit to live the sport's intensity in the way even live broadcasts can't capture. So the comparisons make sense. Fighter jets and Formula One cars are both about machines pushed to their absolute limits. But here's the subtle difference. Top Gun's air combat was focused on military stakes, life or death, country or enemy. F1 is about sports, about competition. The stakes are personal rather than global. Some critics say it makes the drama more human, more relatable. After all, not everyone can picture themselves in a dogfight. But who hasn't felt the need to prove themselves in the arena of competition? Part 2, the mentor arc. But spectacle alone doesn't sustain a blockbuster. Audiences need characters they can root for, and here's where things get more alike. Brad Pitt's character in F1 is a once great driver convinced to come back into the sport not only to mentor a rising talent, played by Damson Idris, but also to face unfinished business of his own. He's older, he's wiser, but still driven by ego and the desire to prove that he's not irrelevant. Sound familiar? That's because it's nearly identical to Tom Cruise's Maverick. Cruise returns as a legendary pilot, asked to train young recruits. Among them, the son of his fallen friend Goose. Like Pitt's driver, he's haunted by past mistakes, struggling to balance mentorship with his refusal to step aside. Both arcs focus on redemption through competition. Both stories explore what it means to age in a world that idolizes youth. Both pit the mentor against the clock, forcing them to confront the possibility that their time has passed. And this isn't a coincidence. It's Kosinski's style. Whether it's planes or cars, he loves telling stories about men caught between time, trying to prove they still belong. Part 3, the music. One area where fans have been particularly divided is the music. Hans Zimmer's score for F1 is powerfully focused, leaning on the thunder of engines and the pulse of percussion. But for many, it doesn't have the staying power of Top Gun Maverick's soundtrack, which blended nostalgia with modern anthems. Think about Maverick's use of Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand, or the revival of Harold Faltermeyer's iconic Top Gun theme. Those tracks didn't just accompany the film, they became part of its footprint. People left theaters humming them, using them in edits, attaching emotional weight to them. F1 hasn't delivered that. Zimmer's work, while technically proficient, isn't considered as iconic, and in blockbuster cinema, that distinction matters. Music isn't just background, it's the key to memory. It's what turns a moment into a cultural reference point. And without it, F1 risks being remembered more for its visuals than its feelings.
Get any constructive criticism for each other, what would it be?
Don't be such an dickhead.
Part 4. Mixed feelings. So what do audiences actually think? That's where things get messy. On the positive side, racing fans have hailed F1 as the definitive motorsport movie. They love the authenticity, the scale, the thrill of cars whipping past at 200 miles per hour. Pitt's charisma, even at 61, has been praised as magnetic, and Damson Idris is earning breakout recognition as the fiery young newbie. But the criticisms are just as loud. Many see F1 as too derivative, a carbon copy of Maverick that lacks originality. Reddit threads have complaints about predictable story beats, others point to the weak soundtrack as a missed opportunity, and a minority dismiss it as Hollywood recycling the formula rather than taking risks on something new. Part 5. The cultural context. To really understand the comparison, we need to think about timing. Top Gun wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural moment. Released in 2022, it became a beacon for theaters struggling to recover from the pandemic. It was the film that proved audiences would return for the right experience. It wasn't just about jets, it was about the survival of the blockbuster itself. F1 arrives in a different context. Theaters have already proven their resilience. Formula One itself has exploded in popularity thanks to Netflix's drive to survive, with millions of new fans tuning in worldwide. In many ways, F1 feels like Hollywood capitalizing on a trend rather than creating one. And that's why comparisons to Maverick feel unfair but unavoidable. Cruise carried his film with the weight of cultural necessity. Pitt carries his with the thrill of spectacle. Both succeed, but in different areas.
He has really struggled with this car.
Part 6. Who wins? So, who wins? If we're talking originality, Top Gun Maverick takes the crown. It reinvented an 80s classic into something urgent and emotional. If we're talking execution, F1 takes a strong case, and its racing sequences and performances are sharp, and Kosinski once again proves he knows how to deliver spectacle on a massive scale. But maybe the answer isn't Pitt or Cruise, jets or cars. Maybe the real winner is the formula itself. This mix of practical stunts, movie star charisma, and emotionally charged mentorship. So when people ask, is F1 just Top Gun with wheels? The truth is yes and no. Yes, it borrows Maverick's structure and style, but no, it isn't a copy. It's an evolution of a formula that still works, one that gets people back into theaters, lets us feel the engines in our bones, and reminds us why we love blockbusters in the first place. So whether you're Team Pitt or Team Cruise, whether you thrill to jets or cars, both films show us the same thing. We go to the movies to be moved, to be thrilled, to be part of something larger than life. So maybe the real question isn't who wins, but what comes next. If Kosinski has already given us jets and cars, what's the next ride? And are we ready to strap in?